Zelenskyy has said that after talks with a top US Army official, he is ready for honest work with Washington on a plan to end the war in Ukraine, while European allies pushed back against punishing concessions to Russia. According to the US-backed plan, Kiev would be required to give up the entire Donbass region and significantly downsize its military, conditions long seen by Ukraine's allies as tantamount to capitulation. The plan makes several concessions to Russia, including that Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk will be recognized as de facto Russian by the United States, and that Ukrainian forces will withdraw from part of Donetsk that they control. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Ministry has stated that Moscow has not officially received any peace plan on Ukraine from the United States. Okay, joining us now is Gilbert Doctorow. He is a Russian affairs expert and he joins us live from Brussels. Thank you very much, Gilbert, for joining us here on NewsX World. Zelenskyy has said that he's ready for honest work on this US-backed framework. From what we've just read, do you think this is something that both sides will concede to, given the fact that Zelenskyy has reiterated time and time again that territorial concessions are off the table?
I think that Zelenskyy has a gun to his head, but held by the United States. He doesn't have a choice but to accept this plan. The United States will be offering him an off-ramp, a way to leave power and live. And that, I think, at this moment must be paramount in Mr. Zelenskyy's thinking, because the war is coming to a conclusion, as we see from the capture of Kupiansk, which we'll talk about shortly, and by the virtual loss of Pokrovsk. These are just names that don't say very much to the broad public, but let me just say that Kupiansk is the city of 40,000 people that is the protector of Kharkiv, nearby 40 kilometers away, which is the second largest city in Ukraine. It is a strategic hub for logistics and for supporting the front there. Therefore, the capture of Kupiansk jeopardizes entirely the Ukrainian presence in the northeast of the country. The capture of Pokrovsk, or Krasnoyarsk as the Russians call it, is a much bigger loss for Ukraine. It is a city of 400,000 before the war, and it is the key support and fortress for Ukrainian army groupings in the center of Donetsk. With that fall, the Russians have a clean sweep, virtually a clean sweep to the Dnieper River, meaning that under the terms of this proposed 28-point peace plan, the only difference is that if the Ukrainians refuse, the result will be the same. They will lose the Donbass in a matter of weeks, and at the cost of many tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers and thousands of Russian soldiers. So it's a question of time and just accelerate the reality that's before us. This peace plan is opposed by everybody. You've spoken about concessions from Ukraine, but the peace plan requires concessions from Europe, from the Russians, from most everyone involved, including the United States, because it covers a lot more than Ukraine.
Yeah, indeed. And Gilbert, of course, EU leaders have called this plan capitulation. What are your thoughts on that statement? You've said that all sides seem to be ceding from this deal. Who is getting most of, who's worse off if this deal were to be agreed?
Let's say who's best off. We, the people of Europe, are best off, because this is this type of solution will end the war in formation in Europe today. The European leaders are against it because 24 out of the 27 heads of state and government in Europe are warmongers. They want to stay in power on the strength of mobilizing assets of the country for purposes of building a war to take place with Russia in 4 years from now. That is what is jeopardized by this peace plan.
Yes, Gilbert, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of the conflict. And the chief of Russia's general staff claims that the Russian forces have taken control of the northeastern Ukrainian city of Kupiansk, although Ukraine's military has denied the claims. Ukraine has also dismissed Russian statements that its forces had taken over large ports of two other towns, Pavlovsk, a logistics hub it has been pressing to capture for months, and Vovchansk near the Russian border. This comes as Russian forces have been engaged in a slow westward advance through the Donetsk region as part of their campaign to capture all of the Donbass, which is made up of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Russian forces have also made recent gains further south in the Zaporozhye region and currently hold about 19% of Ukraine's territory. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry says that 33 Ukrainian drones had been intercepted and destroyed over 5 Russian regions, Crimea and the Black Sea, overnight, resulting in suspension of operations at 8 Russian airports. Gilbert joins us once again. Gilbert, of course, some rivaling information here, as per usual. What would Ukraine stand to gain in denying claims if Russia has captured its territory here?
Well, Russia has been capturing territory every day, and the audience is maybe forgiven for not understanding the difference between the capture of Kupiansk and likely also of Pokrovsk. It's quite different in scale from these other reports every day of this little town, that little settlement having been taken by Russian forces. These are of strategic importance, and they constitute the pincer that is now enveloped Mr. Zelenskyy, and which threatens his life and his tenure in office. The Americans are offering him an exit with a vote to take place 30 days after conclusion of the peace treaty. That will be his peaceful way out, and he can secure a comfortable life for himself on what he's stolen from the United States and the rest of his supporters over the last 3 years. Otherwise, he will probably be lynched if he stays on in Ukraine. The capture of these cities is of great significance because it is the second side, I say a pincer. On the one side, you have the Russians with these convincing wins. On the other side, you have the corruption scandal that broke out last week and completely undermined any authority or credibility that Mr. Zelenskyy had with his supporters at home and abroad.
Okay. Of course, Moscow wants a political freeze here. If Russia did truly have this momentum, which reports out of the Defense Ministry say it has, why is it pushing so hard for this political freeze? Doesn't that suggest exhaustion in these circumstances?
Nothing of the sort. What it suggests is that Russia's primary concern when it launched this special military operation has been properly addressed by Team Trump, namely to redefine the security architecture of Europe to secure everybody, not just the NATO members, but also the people on the east of NATO, so that there are no confrontations that can lead us to a war or that can justify the remilitarization of Europe at the expense of all social benefits, medical provisions, and the welfare of the people in this continent. It is a global solution. It includes renewal of the START Treaty. It includes a conclusion of a non-aggression pact between Russia, Europe, and the United States. That is of decisive importance.
Yes.
So to call this only a peace plan for Ukraine is to miss the whole point of what Team Trump has achieved.
But Gilbert, what we can agree on, however, is the US and Europe seem to be divided here. Do you think that this emboldens Russia for further maximalist demands again?
You say Europe is divided. What Europe? These leaders of Europe who have...
Europe has called this plan capitulation, is what I'm saying.
Yes. The two are divided, and Europe will lose. The United States has the upper hand in this. The United States began this mess, and the United States is trying to clean up this mess.
Okay.
And Europe is now just watching.
Okay. Gilbert Doctorow, thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast. Pleasure to have you on the programme. We have some